gaming videos on this channel. Then I started making vlogs, and then I was doing shitposts. But this isn't because I don't know what I want to make, it's more because I make videos on things I enjoy, and I have a lot of interests. But I've yet to make any videos on coding. It's one of the few interests of mine I've yet to post because I find it kind of difficult to make it an engaging thing to watch. I've actually recorded and edited videos of me coding for the NPCs in Aoria, but it didn't really come out enjoyable, so I left them in unlisted purgatory. But this is my second genuine shot at this, and what better way to make an interesting video on coding than recording me code the most boring thing in the world, a terminal. So what I'm doing first is I'm writing out a quick description of what it is that I want to do. I won't really refer back to this, but having it written down on paper at least once really helps with nailing down exactly what it is that I'm trying to do. Once I've gotten that sorted, I'm going to jump into coding. I'm coding the terminal in Lua using a 2D engine called Love2D, or just Love for short. The plan is to write the terminal in such a way that I can modularly drop the file into any project and have the project immediately be the terminal. That way, if you wanted a terminal for the base of a project, such as a debug tool or a game that looks like a terminal but isn't really, so you can do cool game stuff in it or whatever, then you could just start with this as a base. You also notice in the bottom right hand corner is a time code, just sort of a time thing running, and that is real time for me coding. So I'm actually going to speed a lot of this footage up, something like 10, 20, 30, 50 times, just so that we can get through it in a 15-20 minute video. But just to sort of get a grasp of how long it does take me to do things, the bottom right hand corner is the real time of me coding. And so any cuts that I do means that the time is going to stay pretty much super accurate. And I've recorded basically from when I started to when I finished. So everything that shows up and the end time of the clock is the real time it took me to code. It actually took me about 4 days to do this overall, and that's mainly because I was doing it in 3 or 4 hour chunks at a time, and a lot of those chunks had me just like stepping away from my computer or getting distracted by Reddit and things like that. So keep in mind I could probably do this faster if I was a little bit more dedicated to it, if I was a little bit more focused, a little bit less ADHD. So what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of laying out the framework of what I wanted. I wrote out the quote-unquote callbacks. I'm sure I've been using that term wrong forever, but basically in Love2D, there are 3 main functions that need to be written into the file, which is function love.load. Oh well, love.load not so much. Actually, you can kind of skip that one. But specifically it has to be update and draw. And so what I'm doing is I am basically making my own versions of load, update, and draw. So that way, once you drag drop the file in, you can just use my versions of those in the main file, and it'll literally just be one line in each function, and you'll have done everything. Also, I'm having a little bit of trouble because I forgot how tables, when you try to copy a table, it doesn't copy the value of a table. It will actually copy it'll copy everything, or it won't copy the table. It'll sort of it'll make a reference to the table. So I was having a problem because I was just trying to transfer basically values from one to another, and that's because a lot of the callbacks that Love offers by default, I didn't want to overwrite them, as it were, and I didn't want to be like, well, all you have to do is put, this function into draw and this function into update, and this one into mouse movement, and this one into key movement, and this one into text input, and this one into wheel movement. Like, I was just like, I tried to avoid all of that and basically make my own versions of those within the update function. So it's probably not as fast as it could be, but it also means that I'm avoiding some of the problems of basically having to put my code in all of these other callbacks. So something I ended up getting stuck on for a while as well is, because I'm not using Love's custom callbacks, I needed to basically write my own love.text input, which in Love is usually pretty simple. The way it works is you just write out function love.textInput. It gives you a variable t, and t is just everything that's being typed, all text being typed by a keyboard. It's super simple. You can then just use that text for whatever you want, however the fuck you wanted to use it. But in my case, I didn't want to do that. In retrospect, I probably could have made my life a lot easier had I just written just one function, and now I'm playing Minecraft. If I had just written one function for text input, I forgot I hopped onto Minecraft. If I was playing, or if I had genuinely just used that one specific function for text input, I could have probably saved myself like 4, 5, 6 hours. But what I ended up trying to do was this thing where like I was going to take a key and then I was going to compare it against all the keys that were being pressed last tick and see if anything changed between them. And that's kind of like as far as my thought process went, and I didn't really go any farther than that. I was just like, yes, obviously when there's a difference between the keys that were pressed and the keys that are pressed, I can use that information in a way. And basically I ran into a lot of trouble for a long time for various reasons. One of the reasons being the key clicking function that I had was just basically a couple of if-then checks, and it didn't really do any actual like processing in any way. Now you can, me scrolling through the actual Love source code to see if I could figure out what to do. But what I ended up doing, what I ended up doing that solved it was like rewriting it entirely and using, well, for one, using a for pair loop, but two, using the key pressed function to just return the keys that actually like how did I do it? I think I said if a key is being pressed and it wasn't pressed last tick, then type that key out. And then if a key is pressed now and it was pressed last tick, don't do anything. And then if a key was pressed last tick but it's not being pressed now, then put them in the appropriate tables. Like, it's basically, I needed a way to know if a key was being pressed, so I made a not pressed table. And so it was like, put it in the not pressed table, remove it from the is pressed table. And that like made it really, really simple. And in fact, it made it so simple that one of the very last things I ended up doing was I ended up adding a function so that you could repeat keys by, press a key down, hold, and let the whole thing repeat. After like about a second, the key will just start repeating, because before it was like the key wouldn't repeat no matter how long you held it down, which was kind of a problem with, it wasn't too much of a problem with text, but it was a little bit of a problem with backspace. A lot of people, when they backspace, they hold backspace down, so I wanted to get that working, but that took a while. You'll notice it's now at 6 hours, so we are 1/3 of the way through all of the code that I did, and I'm still just working on this key issue. I'm not even joking. I spent way too much time. So you can see I went and like basically rewrote a lot of it. And here's me fucking around. My idea was using go-tos, because I was like, oh, well, maybe if I just do this and then I go to this location, blah 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 blah, and I made my life really fucking difficult. It was about here when I rewrote the table, because originally I had 2 tables, and then it dawned on me, instead of having 2 tables, I could have 1 table with all the key constants, what the computer actually, what you get when you press the key down, what gets returned. I could take those constants, and then I could say, if you are pressing shift, it's this. If you aren't pressing shift, it's this. So I'm writing that out right now, and I wrote it out, and there's a few minutes that fly by, but there are genuinely like a few minutes of me sitting there looking at it going, that's like 5 lines long. Surely I'm missing something. And then I realized I wasn't missing anything, and actually I just did the right thing, and I've made my life way more difficult than it needed to be. But I'm about at that point where I'm getting really close to having that work. So I'm starting to move on to formatting it a little, getting the text to show up in the right locations. So now that I finally got that, it only took 7 hours to get the key key stuff working. Consoles are pretty simple. They have the input text, the text you're writing, the output text, the text that shows up. They have a little cursor that blinks after the input text. They have a scroll bar on the right-hand side, and then usually something behind the scroll bar as well. I don't actually like the way the scroll bar looks, particularly. It looks very OS oriented, probably because it is. It's probably like an OS thing you can specifically request so that it changes per window and stuff like that. I don't like that. I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could go through some sort of complicated process to read what the OS is and get the relevant like scroll bars, like images, assets, whatever, but I didn't want to do that, so my scroll bar is pretty simple. But right now what I'm working on is I'm working on what am I working on? Oh, I'm working on, well, actually I'm getting distracted realizing that if I want a print function, I also want tables to print out. I really don't like that with a standard print function in Lua. If you just type print, it will just print table and then give you the reference location of the table in the memory. It doesn't tell you what's in the table, which is just like not useful to anybody. Nobody needs to know where the computer has stored it in the memory. What am I gonna do with that information? It doesn't help in any way except for letting me know if two tables look the same, but also just having the tables print out is a good indicator of that as well. So I went and I got an entirely different program, I guess, modular little drop-inable thing called Inspect, which basically, I said that weird, it's just Inspect. It basically prints out tables in a nice, easy to read way. Because that was me getting distracted, I wrote the print function, and then now I'm going back. Right now I'm working on the cursor to get the cursor to always show up at the end of the line, and then, if multiple lines pop up, it needs to drop back down again. I remember the first time I was doing that, I had done this really weird thing. I did it with a lot of stuff, actually. To get stuff to move where it needed to be, it had 7 or 8 different variables, and each variable had like multiple equations on it, so it was so hard to figure out why anything ended up in the location that it did, and it worked, but it was hard to change because it was like, why does any of this work exactly? Right now I am working on, so I've got all the key presses working. Now I'm working on, now that I have a cursor, I am trying to get the typing in the middle of a string to work. I was having a bit of an issue because where the cursor was being represented and how it was being represented numerically wasn't quite lining up, so where it was typing would show up weirdly. And then also a couple of issues where if you would type but it was at the beginning or end of the string, it wouldn't quite work, so I was trying to sort that one out as well. Yeah, and also the cursor is for backspace as well, so that you can backspace stuff in the middle of a string, which is obviously really helpful if you are to type, say, like a function. Functions always have parentheses at the end, so it's nice to be able to type the function name out, put the parentheses, and then go back inside the parentheses and type something as well. So I wanted to make sure all of that was working. I tried to keep it really simple, the console, so it really only has a couple of things. It has the as far as, I guess you could say, functionality to it. When you type, you can type. If you control A, oh, I never added a copy. I just realized I never added a copy paste. Okay, I should probably throw that in. Now that I'm thinking about it, it shouldn't be too hard. Famous last words. But yeah, so you can type. You can type in the middle of a string, the beginning or the end of the string. You can delete it. If you highlight the string and press delete or any key, you can overwrite the string. I will go and probably add a copy paste if I remember to, you can scroll and stuff. Basically what you see is what you get. All of the text that is showing up on the screen is saved in a table, and that table is about 300 lines long or 300 entries long. It actually depends on the size of the window because the text doesn't scale with the window. I could have done that. I don't like that. I have a bad habit of making everything scale with the size of the window, and I'm trying to get into the habit of not having everything constantly be scaling all the time, mainly because I have issues because I don't know if it actually looks good. It just feels like it's the right thing to do, but it just doesn't quite work. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I noticed that when I was playing Minecraft, I tested it with that. I don't think Minecraft squishes or compresses the image in any way, the render. I think you're just cutting off what you can see. So I need to be doing that more often. And I think actually originally I was trying to scale the scroll bar, not the text, but just the scroll bar. And then I was having issues with the scroll bar getting to line up with the text. And then it was like, I think I had ended up fixing it. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I don't want this scroll bar here. So I got rid of it. But right now I'm just drawing the highlight box that pops up around the text. Pretty simple. Basically make the box the length of however long the text is, and as high as however many lines there are in the text. Pretty simple. And now I'm getting stuck on Reddit. You know how it is. And now I'm getting stuck on Discord. And now I'm actually on an entirely different project. So this is funny, actually. I guess the 12 hours I had are not all totally mine, but I am on a Discord, which is the Love2D Discord, and somebody posted in the Discord some like rain, I guess, and it didn't look bad per se, but it was just kind of static and boring looking. So I made the rain be circles instead of squares, and I wanted the rain to fall dynamically, but I was having a little bit of trouble. I got it to fall somewhat dynamically. It doesn't look that bad. I wanted to try to keep it pretty simple. And it's funny too, because I did it and then I threw it in and I was like, I made the rain a little bit more dynamic. And the guy who made it was like, thanks. And some other guy was like, hey, so actually, your code is not gonna run correctly because it's not using delta time correctly. And I'm just like, dude, all I did was change 7 lines. And that's so that it would be fucking a little bit more dynamic with the rain falling. Why are you like this? And I know what it was. I accidentally removed an if then. Not my fault. Anyways, I managed to sort it all. So now I think I was just working on the background of the bar, the scroll bar and stuff. And I was also putting in the only love callback that I had to use, which is wheel moved, because there's no other way to detect whether the wheel is getting scrolled up or down. For at least from what I can tell, there might be some way to do it with C, but there was no way to do it with Lua, and I don't know C. So I just had to swallow my pride. Then I got a little distracted. I was on Twitch just to have something playing in the background. And funnily enough, I was looking for a simple way to tell if a point is within a rectangle or not, and I just ended up getting some of the craziest shit that was like, oh, all you have to do is calculate all the areas of the triangles that make up the rectangle, and I'm just like, what? Why do I have to do it like that? I swear to God there's an easier way. I just didn't know what it was. And then it was really obvious. Obviously, you just check to see if it's, to the right of one side, to the left of the other, etc., etc. Super simple. Basically, if it's to the right of one of them, it has to be to the left of the opposite side, basically. But yeah, I made it a little bit more difficult than I needed to be, which I found kind of funny. So now I can't remember. I had a question about just a sort of an unrelated question, but I was trying to figure out if it was more effective to use functions versus using the if true then, if the only time you're ever going to use that code is in that one specific location. So a lot of my code has if true then do something, or rather just if true then, and then it's doing something, and I wanted that for scope handling, and also just to keep my code clean, because I can minimize down an if true then. But turns out there's something even better than that, which is just do. Just do it. All I have to write is the word do, and it will just do those things, which is apparently just better, because I guess it just doesn't use any comparisons, but it does have scope, which is exactly what I was looking for. But when I was looking for it the first time, I couldn't find any fucking information about it. So now I'm working on, I have to go back through basically and change my code, because everything was based off the width of the window, but then I threw the fucking scroll bar there, and so now I'm like, oh shit, better actually get rid of the scroll bar. Yeah. It's at the 16-hour mark. I'm getting a bit distracted. Keep in mind, it wasn't 16 hours as in one full day. I can't code that much. I like start to forget what's going on, basically. I start to like spaz out after about 4 hours of code. I need to like take a break and let my brain reset a little bit. So this was broken up into about 4 days, 4 or 5 days worth, actually, I think it ended up being. Although I guess theoretically I could have just done it in one super day of coding. Oh man, one of these days I'm gonna sign up for one of those coding challenges. It's gonna be a fucking ball ache, because I'm gonna be real excited for it, and then I'm gonna lose steam 4 hours in, and everyone else is gonna be like, we haven't done anything yet. Also, I was in Discord just there because I was trying to figure out how to put non-breaking spaces into strings, and basically there is this one really specific situation where if you type something really, really long out and it doesn't have any other spaces in it, it'll break at the space between the caret and the text, which meant that it would overwrite the text beneath it, which was kind of frustrating. And it was like, the only reason that I was seeing this bug was because I was spamming out letters, and I was like, oh, this is only ever going to happen if someone else spams out letters. But I was like, I still wanted to fix it, and I just didn't know how. And then it turns out I could fix it, and non-breaking spaces do work, and you just can't copy-paste them from Wikipedia, which is what I was trying to do. So I'm at the point where I'm like, really close to done. I'm just cleaning up a couple of bugs. Right now I'm making it so that when you scroll down, or when you type every time you type a line, it gets knocked up two paces, and then it calculates how many lines that are currently being shown, and if there are more lines being shown than there are able to fit on, it goes up, and if it goes up past like a certain amount, I can't remember what amount, it might have just been a hard-coded amount, like after something like 300 lines or something, lines just start getting deleted. Or it was like if it couldn't go up any farther or something. I can't actually, you know what, I don't remember how I did it. You know what, let me just fucking open the code instead of trying to watch from the video, because it's moving so fucking fast. I'm not sure what I did. I do remember it being pretty simple. Calculate the lines, adjust scroll index based on line, remove items from history. No, not the history. Adjust scroll index based on lines. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, if, this scroll.max. What is scroll.max? Right, if the scroll bar is all the way at the bottom of the page, because basically, every time the scroll bar was at the bottom of the page, and I added a line, it would get knocked down one. And if it got knocked down past the max, then it would delete the last two lines, basically. Really rather simple. Now I'm just fixing up a couple of things. I am adding in a couple of error checks, and I'm writing the documentation, which is really simple. It's also the first time I've ever written documentation. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, it took me, it didn't take me 16 hours, it took me 19 hours. I don't know how to read numbers. But yeah, it all came out like really, really well, all things considered, and I was really happy for it. And I wrote my own callback. I actually struggled with it because I was originally calling it console.return, but console.return doesn't work because return's already a word, so I had to change it. But yeah, so that was me basically coding 24 minutes. Or rather, 20 hours compressed down to 24 minutes. I hope you guys liked it. I know it wasn't like the craziest, most interesting thing I've ever done on this channel, but it was something I'm proud of, and tend to use this channel as a bit of a repository for shit that I've done. So, yeah, if you guys like it, then just let me know. If you are interested in taking a look at it, it is all on the GitHub, which I will link down in the description. You can just download it. I will actually have 2 links. I will have the version that you could drop into your own program, but I also have just a version you can just run like a standard program. Windows only, unfortunately, so if you have Mac or if you have Linux, I'm sorry I can't help you there. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you later, YouTube.